Okay, so let me start. I am a job hopper. I'm gonna start on that note. Okay, I don't think a lot of you know that I am a job hopper, or I was a job hopper. I don't hop jobs anymore. I was a job hopper back then. I hopped from being a project training support. So it means I go and support all sorts of trainings and development workshops out there. That's in the insurance company. Then I've hopped from that to become a accounts executive. That's in a marketing agency. Then right after that, I hopped to take on a freelance job. Then right after that, I land on becoming a digital marketing specialist in an education company. So, and I would say after working 1.5 years, I always think about changing jobs, and that's why I hopped that many times. And I'm going to tell you why later, and I hope that you could understand why as well. I'm not asking all of you guys to hop your jobs now and all that. I'm going to tell you why, but the summary of it as of now, what I can tell you is that work is tough. It's tough in many aspects, and it's tough enough for a normal worker. What more, a full-time Christian worker? Work never goes your way. The silly young me last time, when I was like 21 years old, I just hopped jobs. I just job hops around and thinking I could find the ideal job that could give me what I want. And some of you may be thinking about that right now. I'll be like, because I keep getting like inquiries from some of you. You go like, oh, I want the ideal job. I want the ones that pays me well, no OT. I can get the breaks that I want, good boss, good job prospect, blah, 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 all that. And all I'm just gonna say is, I've tried one thing. I've tried chasing for that, and I still couldn't find it after 4 years. So let me start with the differences between work and university that nobody, or maybe some of you probably have heard of out there, but it's not commonly known out there, I would say. So the first difference is as in a workplace, you start off worse than everyone else in the room. Not like uni, you see, when you're still in uni or in college, you started on equal ranks as your batchmates. You go into the same class, you learn the same things. Everyone so-called is a noob, or everyone is a senior. So everyone's the same in uni. But in work, as you go into that workplace, you start off worse than everyone in the room, because you're the most inexperienced one, and you just don't have the right skills. And you have to be ready to be treated like a noob. And that's my first very point, because I think some of you might find it hard to digest that and to accept that side of the truth. Okay, second difference that I would say is you're gonna have to say goodbye to all of your school holidays. Most of you enjoy your mid-sem break, your sem break, your summer break, your winter break, all the breaks that you have, right? And you will be in work. There won't be any breaks except for probably public holidays, and you'll be working for the next 40 years of your life, approximately, non-stop. And sometimes even during festive seasons like CNY and Christmas, and then you will retire. That's what you're signing up for right after you graduate. And the third difference is in uni, when you hand in late, like for your assignments, right? If you hand in late, there will be only a small penalty for the score, right? Maybe 20% will be taken off from your overall marks. In work, everything has a deadline to that. You have to keep to it, and your job will definitely be on the line if you don't deliver what you promised. You don't deliver on the very day you promised to deliver. Deadlines are crucial, I would say. Some of you may be thinking, okay, this sounds like normal, this sounds easy to do, but it's not, okay? Trust me, it's not. And some of you also in unis, right? Right after you've gotten your 20% penalty off from your marks, you can still use other exams or other assignments to top up those marks. So it's okay, you see, you get to have a recovery plan. But in work, no recovery plan. It's either you deliver or you die. Yeah. So the next difference I want to say is when you have a major breakdown, like for example, you're just way too stressed about work, you have no idea what to do, no one is going to come to your rescue. Okay. I'm not trying to be harsh here, but it's true. Everyone is trying to survive, and you're one of that many people. So if you have a major breakdown, you have no idea what to do, no one's going to come to your rescue, and work is work, and you're still expected to get it done. Unlike uni years, maybe if you are having a major breakdown, your parents can always just ride in. Your parents can always just step in and settle. The uni will understand, but not work. Another difference is in uni, you have a circle of friends that you always hang out with, right? You feel comfortable, and you don't quite care about what the rest think of you because you just don't care. You don't bother going out there and meeting strangers as well because that's not your comfort zone, right? But at work, you're required to meet strangers. You're required to get to know people who don't actually like you. At work, there will always be politics and prejudice. So you are either liked or hated by people. And people already made judgment of you the moment you step into the office. And yet you're required to work with them, enjoy working with them, and to also still engage with them. Another difference is your peers in uni, they're nice, right? They're very tolerant. Some of them can even be your real friends, right? But at work, no one is your friend from the start. Everyone just pretends to be nice. And the true unfriendly side of your colleague will come out when they have to fight to be in the limelight, or they have to fight in order to save themselves from getting in trouble. Everyone will prioritize themselves over others, over even you. So you guys may be close at work for a while, but sooner or later, it might not last long once you start battling and competing. That's work. Another difference is making a mistake in university will get you a lower score, right? But at work, when you get something wrong, it will ruin your whole entire reputation. And sometimes you will lose your job as well. Another difference in uni, I know most of you guys have said this. In uni, you can secretly skip morning classes and then you can catch up after that. No problems, right? You don't struggle with study and all that. So you can catch up later. But at work, your clock-in time is recorded. You have to arrive at 8:30 a.m. or maybe the earliest 9 a.m. And if you're late for this number of times, let's say 5 or 6 times, you get a warning letter from your HR boss. And you have to do that for 40 years of your life. And last but not least, in uni, you can be yourself and not care about anything. You can be in your comfort zone. You can just do whatever you want, right? But at work, you're forced to care. You're forced to talk to people you don't want to talk to. You're forced to do things that you're very uncomfortable with, and you can't back out. Yeah. So that's, I would say, a summary, or maybe the differences that I could think of between the uni life as well as the work life. And by now, I hope some of you, the fresh grads or the ones who are about to graduate, will maybe start feeling like, uh-oh, what did I sign up for? I thought work was supposed to be interesting and it's supposed to be, you know, the funnest part of my life. No. Okay, so I'm going to go on to talk about the brutal truth about your worth as a fresh grad. Okay, when you enter into work, what are you, right? Can you bring stuff to the table? How do people look at you? Now, first of all, I want to say, as fresh graduates, we're all ill-equipped. We have problems even doing basic stuff like talking to people properly. And I'm not exaggerating because I myself struggle with that at the start of my work. And then some of us, it's hard to even start a conversation that will lead to develop a meaningful relationship with a stranger who's not keen on getting to know you at first. I hang out with people not of my age, right, younger than me, and it's really very hard to engage a conversation with them because they just can't seem to hold a conversation very well. Even a soft skill like that, it's really hard. What more like work? We're famous for ghosting people. I even got to know this term only when I started hanging out with younger people. I didn't even know what that means, but ghosting people, it's in other words, like you just disappear without informing. We're famous for ghosting people because we have no idea how to turn down an invitation or an offer properly. Fresh graduates are poor at holding meaningful conversations, which is one of the most essential skills to maintain a professional working relationship that will contribute to the greater good of the company. In the end, companies have no choice but to run like workshops like how to have effective conversations, how to have active listening, how to receive difficult feedback. You know, they run workshops like that because for millennials like us, because we're ill-equipped and we don't even know how to talk. We need training to learn how to talk. Okay, and there's just one aspect of many things. Okay, there's just one aspect. Now, in the first year of my work, even of your work, you will be more of a burden and more of a mess to the company than someone who adds value to the company. Even if you're talented, even if you're a fast learner, which some of you, I'm pretty sure you are, you still have to accept some truth in that because your university does not prepare you to face the real world, not at all. If you are a fast learner, then perhaps it gets better after your first year. But if you're not, then you will continue struggling probably until you to your second or maybe even your third year, or maybe never. You just never stop struggling. Only by the second or third year, I'll say for myself, it depends on how fast you pick things up. Only by the second or third year can you really bring value to the company, make a difference that will garner real returns to the company. But you see, the toughest bit about this whole thing is that most of us are not willing to start from nothing. Most of us are not willing to start from the bottom. We're unwilling to accept our place at work. We consider ourselves as fresh graduates, right? So that means we're entitled to high-level kind of work, praises from praises from bosses, right? And also we can make demands. We think we have the right to make demands on things like, oh, I want to take leave, or I want to have flexible work hours. You see, back then, my wish to my younger self, is that I wish that I have the ability to see what my boss saw in me back then. If I had such ability, then I think my complaints about work, about myself, about the boss would have been reduced to probably half or less than that. It's really very gracious of your boss, honestly, to be willing to tolerate you throughout the whole entire process without firing you. So it's all about perception, guys. You have to see yourself in the midst of a larger ecosystem instead of just being so short-sighted to your own talent and your own capability, which is not everything, which is not even that unique after all. You're compared to people from overseas, people, talented people who graduate from like well-known universities out there. You're compared to your seniors. You're compared to even history, people from the past. So in the eyes of your bosses and colleagues, you're not as good as you like to think you are. You have lots of shortcomings that people aren't gonna like it. And you might actually step on someone's toes with that weaknesses of yours or inexperienced side of you. Okay, so I hope that that will give you some insight on how to think of yourself as a fresh grad in that brutal working world. Now comes the most important part, which a lot of us, hush about it, but we want to know very much of what's going on at the end. Salary. Okay, let's talk about salary, guys. Now, first of all, why does salary still matter to us, as in like generation like us? Even when our parents are averagely well off, we're by far the richest generation, by the way, and we get to have a lot of things that we want instantly. But we still want a job that pays well, because we're not in it for the money ultimately, but we're in it because we want the independence from our parents. We don't want to be seen as that student anymore who is always dependent on your parents to buy stuff, to get things that you want. We want to be free from that. So even when we're rich, we are that's us, you see. We want to care about salary because that's a sense of independence for us. Now, but even when we were rich, we are also the most insecure generation who want to prove our worth, who want to control our life destiny, who wants to control what we want to do. And we can finally do that at work. We can finally spend the money that we earn with our bare hands and nobody gets to tell us what to do. Yay, right? So we look forward to that part of life. However, we're also very skeptical about life. We learn well from our parents. We see our parents and we go like, nah, I don't want to work that hard, because if I work that hard, in the end, it will kill us. So we learn well from our parents, and we do not want too much money to the point that it will kill us. So we stay away from being too rich or wanting too much. But at the same time, we stay away from being a bum at home, because we don't want to look like losers out there. We stay away from being on either extreme. So we just learn how to survive at work. That's what we do. This is what a generation does. We learn how to just survive. But you see, even when we try to survive, right, and earn a decent amount and seek independence in that, we still find ourselves in a bigger black hole. And let me explain what I mean. As fresh graduates, right, in terms of your salaries, in most industries, you're always underpaid. Your starting pay ranges around 2,000 to 2,500. And obviously this excludes the pharmacists and the engineers out there, because apparently I heard that they get paid more, but the growth of their pay is not as steep as other industries. Bank Negara Malaysia has reported that fresh grad salaries have declined since 2010, while inflation keeps increasing. That means you guys are a lot poorer than the fresh graduates 9 years ago. You start by being already poorer than others. You start with a disadvantage. So trying to survive with just a decent amount is not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. And just when you thought, okay, maybe, we have less pay equals to less work, right? Means your boss won't demand much from you. Not true. Your workload is still the same. Your workload is not reduced. Your bosses are still going to make sure that they squeeze every last penny from you. The first month is just a rounds of getting lost in time, fighting that crazy traffic jam, falling asleep at the wheel, getting drowned in work, being pushed around by your colleagues and bosses. And then every day you ask yourself, is this even worth it? And then the end of the month has finally arrived. I could still remember looking forward to my first paycheck. Just when I thought I could finally buy whatever I want, or maybe save up for my next trip to Bali, the moment I opened my pay slip, then I realized, why my pay was reduced to 2,001, I earned 2,050, why 2,001? Suddenly I see this word EPF, right? So what are these? I didn't even ask for these, but turns out that my HR boss said, no, this is part of the whole SOP, right? You have to pay for your retirement fund. you have to set aside to contribute to the whole employment side of things as well. So that's why you have EPF, you have SOCSO. So after taking all the money away, in the end, I'm left with just 2,000. Oh dear. I was thinking to myself, how can I ever save up for anything, you know? Like I have so many bills to pay, petrol, insurance, food, home, monthly contribution to church, normal daily expenses only. And I'm not even talking about Prada bags and all, you know? And after reluctantly paying for all these, I'm only left with 500, okay, 500 ringgit. And 500 ringgit is the same amount as my monthly allowance back in my uni days. And I thought to myself, why would I even work in the first place if it's going to get me back to square one again? I'm not freer than before. I'm not richer than before. And not to mention, I also need to set aside that 500 ringgit for Christian conferences and for church camps. So technically, I have no savings for 1 year. I worked so hard so that I end up with nothing. And if I'm gonna end up with, if I'm gonna end up broke like that, then what was the whole cycle of work for? And especially when everything is falling apart around you, when bosses don't like you, when colleagues are looking at you with a skeptical look, salary is the least you could look forward to. But sadly, even that is taken away from you. So I would say Genesis 3 is real. You know, here, this is a Christian Careers Day, so we read the Bible as well. And here you can see in verse 17 and 18, right? It says here, right after man has sinned, cursed is the ground. In pain, man will eat of it all the days of man's life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. This is the penalty we're facing for going against God, for our sin. Out of the cursed ground comes thorns and thistles. That means you work so hard to get futility in life. Unlike the world that God has created for you, back then it was so fruitful, but now our labor is hardly fruitful. So we spend our whole life reaping from this ground in pain. Pain comes together as we cari makan. You get that? I used to be the most enthusiastic one at work, the gung-ho, freshy one, who gave my very best effort to perfecting my work for my bosses, you see. And then after seeing that there is no end to this miserable work life that I'm in with very little gain, I just can't help but feel like I regretted growing up. And then one day, a 50-year-old man, a 50-year-old colleague of mine, pulled me aside and said, now, why do you work so hard? They paid you so little. Why are you giving them everything? You noob lah, you know, you need to stay on top of your game by giving them just enough. If they want more, they need to pay more. But you remind me, Winnie, you remind me of my young self. Stupid lah. Simply give everything to the company. Look at where I am now. After being in this company for 30 years. Still stuck as a manager. Can't go beyond that. And I thought to myself, hey, there's wisdom to that, you see. Though we can't demand much as fresh grads because we are inexperienced, we just want to be treated fairly and not to be exploited. And if all those rounds of OTs, traffic jams, crazy workload aren't going to give me a raise, I just have to reduce my input. I just have to set the expectation lower. And that's the only way to survive for fresh grads is we do less to die less, to suffer less. And that's the most that we can do. And that's how juniors normally get back at their company. They protect their worth by giving less to the company. Now, that very same colleague also shared this. You know, Winnie, when I was your age, who just started work, right? I wanted to be a millionaire. And 30 years later, you know what? I still want to be a millionaire. Nothing is too late, right? Huh? Right? So I don't know whether he's joking or what, but this guy spent 30 years working at achieving the very dream that he wanted at the start of his career, but still couldn't have it. He did not choose, he did not do anything wrong. He was not a bad worker. He did not do any hanky-panky stuff. He was a hard worker. And he got desperate for money along the way and started looking for a faster route and got himself into gambling. And ever since then, he can't get his eyes off those Toto numbers, those Dama Chai numbers. He also picked up maybe 1 or 2 expensive hobbies along the way just to cheer himself up because work is just bad. Then the very moment when he was talking about, to be promoted to a higher rank, the very moment where he goes like, I'm looking forward to be promoted to the senior manager role, all of a sudden he said, a better and younger person came in and took over that position immediately. Headcount is gone. Headcount means that position is gone. And he had to wait for another 5 more years to stand for another chance to be a senior manager. And there's no guarantee he could even have it. So he has been spending 30 years of his life waiting for his turn, waiting for his prime time, but it never came. Well, all these were happening to him and all these struggles were happening in me just when we thought that nothing could be worse than that, right? Then we have this one happy-go-lucky woman, 60-year-old woman, who has been around for 40 years, means longer than all of us. She's an admin staff who can't take more work than just picking up calls and arranging files. 40 years of experience picking up calls and arranging files. And that's not the worst. The worst is she was paid $6,000 per month for just doing that. And even that, she often messed up her things, and my colleague and I had to step in for her. A fresh graduate like me had to step in for a 60-year-old woman like her, who's supposedly very experienced in her work. Why? Just like, why do I do that? Why should I do that, And when I'm not even paid half of a salary, please. So there was even a day, right, when she realized that she lost her stapler on her desk, and she spent the whole day looking for that stapler. That stapler, that's her job for that day, Where's my stapler? Where's my stapler? You go up and down different floors. Do you see my stapler? Do you see my stapler? And nobody dared to tell her off because she's the most senior one of them all. She gets to do whatever she wants, happily leaves work at 5 p.m. sharp, and the company pays her for doing nothing, for just finding her stapler. And while I'm sitting here slaving away, then ask, why? Why, Lord? And just when you thought you could, maybe perhaps get back at the company because they're not going to give you much. You look at this, woman, just when you thought you could get back at the company by being calculative of how much effort you put into your work. And wow, the company also try to get back at you or trying to, suck every part of your working soul that's left in you. Then we have this 60-year-old woman sitting here, just comes in and scams everyone. Me, the company, the colleague, and everyone. And takes the money that she did not work hard for and enjoyed them happily. So Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 21. Sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who did not toil for it. This pains every young employee out there who wants a fair slice of the cake. And I'm probably sure some of you workers out there go like, oh dear, I totally can feel that. That's already happening to me right now in my workplace. In fact, talking about scamming people, right? I'm not trying to be cynical here, but it's true. In fact, everything was a scam. 90% of the time, let me tell you, okay, this is a secret between you and I, okay? I'm not supposed to tell you this, but 90% of your time, your bosses they are betting on things that they themselves are not sure about. And most of the time, I was even doing stuff that I'm not even sure what I was doing. And yet, yet the worst of it all is we still earn money. We still get profits from our clients, and our clients have no clue that we have no clue about doing anything. Okay, so overall, the whole ecosystem is agencies scam companies, third-party vendors scams the agencies, employees and employers scam each other, boss scam the bigger bosses scam back the smaller bosses, chairman scams the board of directors, and they scam each other back. And so us being on the lowest tier, well, we secretly want to scam back the company by pretending to just be busy and then getting paid for doing nothing. So it's all about who gets the upper hand. That's what in chapter 1, verse 15, I hope the slide can come out right now. There you go. Yeah, verse 15, it says here, what is crooked cannot be made straight. What is lacking cannot be counted. Something is perverted, something is so wicked as the working world cannot be made right. There's something fundamentally wrong about the working world. And you know what? The best of it all, I'll say, is that this whole thing has been arranged by God himself. And there's absolutely nothing that humans can do about it. The harder we try to get our fair slice of the cake, the more we're at loss, the more we become perverted, the more we lose ourselves. Okay, so that's on one aspect, on the salary side of things. Now, I want to move on to talk about the next big thing that you guys look forward to, which is, personal development. Means you go into a company, you wish to learn the things that you want to learn, you wish to be trained and go through workshops and seminars, you wish to groom yourself, you see. So a lot of millennials and even myself, we don't want money as much as the experience, as much as the exposure to things. So we want our bosses to develop us, right? Have a development plan to groom us. Now, most bosses out there will promise you this personal development because they know that's exactly what we're looking for. And you know what? I've waited for new things to do. I've waited for more interesting things to do because I honestly can take more. But sadly, I just keep doing the same thing for 1 to 2 years. And somewhat in companies, people say, I don't know whether it's true, you're just paid to stay at your usual job with very little growth plan, with very little development plan. And that's true, I would say, across all the jobs that I've had last time. None of the bosses would want to take the initiative to really grow you. I was bored as a fresh graduate. So I wanted more, but my boss did not develop me as fast as I want to. I spent most of the time dealing with people's mess when I could have spent that time just learning new things and, probably working on church work. My logic is if my time has been used for work, then I might as well maximize it and use it to develop myself so that in the end, I can contribute that back to church, which most of you, I think majority of you would think of that, right? But I can't even control that side because I wasn't given enough to reach my optimal work capacity. I wasn't given enough to do work. So I was confined to just one small little corner of the department to do the same thing every day. And when I was younger, I had a very unrealistic expectation of my work development. I honestly thought bosses out there would work with my potential capacity, will focus on grooming me accordingly, but sadly, that's not true. This is a secret thing about it, is that work isn't the main place for personal development or personal growth without consequences. School is the place for that. Training out there is the place for that. The job that you have will require you to develop yourself with an excellent performance as a return. Okay, if you don't get that returns, no development, man. No personal growth, no nothing. So it's mainly about how much you can bring to the table. It's all a bargain at the end. So it's all also about performance and profits. Though how much they try to sell to you, hey, we try to give you a work-life balance, we try to give you a healthy working culture. But when it's crunch time, guys, everyone works like a dog. So when your bosses sat down with you, promised the world that they would groom you, don't get too excited, because I would say logically, even when he really wants to groom you, there are many arrangements that he needs to make that possible for you. And even if it happens, it will never occur instantly. So you never get that development plan instantly. The waiting time to be moved to a better department, for example, or the waiting time to be developed properly, right? It's indefinite. You just keep waiting. I remember waiting for like 1 to 2 years, just like, when are you gonna move me? When are you gonna give me stuff to do or better stuff to do, right? The waiting time will be around 1 to 2 years, And guess what? In that 1 to 2 years, I've seen bosses, they forget about grooming the people. Can you imagine waiting for 1 to 2 years, then in the end, getting nothing? And your boss, every staff comes to your boss and demanding the same thing. And you know what? Your boss would promise 30 to 100 of them, of all the staff that he has, with similar things as the things that he promised you. So eventually, every one of us gets disappointed and leave the company. And only one person gets to be part of that development program, that lucky one. She comes in at the right timing, the boss favors her, she gets the whole package. Honestly, she's not any better than all of us. She's just the same. She's my friend until now. But it just all depends on luck. It just depends on timing. It depends on your boss favor. It depends on whether there's vacancy or not. There's head count, expansion need, training opportunity, whether HR likes you, all that for your development plan to work on you. So you can see it's so tough to even get to be even groomed at work, to get what you want. So in 𝐭𝐸𝐶 chapter 9, verse 11, again, I saw that under the sun, you think that the race will be won by the one who is fastest on track, right? But it's not. Race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to them all. For man does not know his time. Time and chance determine who prosper and who doesn't. It's not necessarily true that those able, those more gifted ones will reap the benefits of life. No. Time and chance that belong to our Creator, God, He will rule the outcome of every one of our lives. Not our ability, not our intelligence, not even our knowledge. Only our intelligence, probably our knowledge, our talent may get us this far only. But the rest of it all is still under God. So this happened to one of my friends. She got her first job offer. She was very excited. She was a fresh grad, even though it's not what she was looking for. Her job was to do analytics for the company, which is to churn reports for the department. So it's kind of like a boring job that nobody wants. But what she really wants is to be in a social media team, because she's actually very good at it. But she said, I will still take the offer, because this boss promised me, right, that he will offer me the position that I want But I start with the analytics role first, and I learn a bit, then he will move me. He promised me he will give me what I want. Then I immediately told her not to take it up because it's unlikely that her boss would ever move her or during the waiting period, or I don't think the boss will ever move her. But she still went ahead and she still wished that would happen to her. So she accepted the offer. So guess what? She stuck in that analytics role for almost 2 years, overworked herself every day to the point that she gave up Christianity and decided not to be a Christian anymore. She wished the very thing that she did not get. So guys, think wisely. Don't get your hopes up too quickly, because if you're given an opportunity to be groomed, that's great, but it comes with a cost. But if you're not given such an opportunity, I would say it's normal. It happens to all. Okay, so that's the personal development growth side of things. Now, I want to talk about satisfaction as well, like what gain we can get, how satisfied we can be in work. Now, whatever you have accomplished in your first year, experientially speaking, it will be very fulfilling. It will be like, wow, I'm exposed to different things. I go to different brands and da, da, da. So for me, myself, I work in a marketing agency. So I remember launching the first flagship store in Malaysia. And I remember working on a 360 branding campaign. I get to travel. Yeah, I get to travel. Some of you might be like, wow, okay, yeah, I get to travel. I get to partner with noble brands out there to launch like a super festive UK Christmas campaign. And if I say the brand for most of you, I think most of you go like, wow, but I can't say the brand now. So it makes you think that, wow, it's so interesting. Work is so interesting. You can do this for the rest of your life, right? Unlike studies where you just have to study for it and sit for exams, right? So most of you would think, well, work is so interesting. But as I moved on to many different projects in my second year, halfway I realized that it's all the same. It's all the same. It will give you similar adrenaline rush. It will never satisfy you. I remember, okay, this is another secret I have. I recycle ideas and use them on different projects and give to different clients. And they're all the same ideas. But you see, clients, they don't know about it. They still pay us. They still throw money at us. So I'm in charge of pitches. So I pitch to the clients, and the clients will either buy the idea or not. And every time I would just recycle my idea for this brand. I would say, oh, let's do something big and better now. And then that brand is also the same, big and better now. And all of them were like, wow, they would just give us the money. So every time our pitches are more or less the same. My pitch is always the same, and I always get money for it, okay? So it's like stuff like, oh, it's time for a rebrand. Let's bring some awareness to the brand. Let's create the hype. Let's have this massive on-ground event. Let's hire this celebrity to launch this product. Oh, let's run this $1 million ad. Let's spend on this customized mascot or cake and just display it right in front of everyone in Summit Pyramid, and maybe produce that Petronas type of video that can make everyone cry. And you know what? Let's target the young generation, because they are the ones who can give you that money. That pitch that I made it so many times to so many clients. And all of them were like, wow, this is good, huh? This is good. This is a breath of fresh air. It's very original. This is idea. And they don't have a single clue, by the way. So they just throw money at us to execute the same thing. And I'm like, same thing happening again. The same rebranding campaign has to be worked on another same rebranding campaign. It's all the same in the end. So it gets very empty after a while. I keep meeting the same young generation. I keep dressing up for similar type of press event out there. I keep getting free VIP accesses. Or some of you are like, wow, VIP. No, after you get like 100 of them, you go like, nah. And then you get to, you know, see celebrities, you get to see influencers, you get to know them looking posh, nicely dressed up. You get to have free products as well. And you get to also build networks with all sorts of well-known people. And this keep repeating. And a lot of you will be like, yay, but for me, no. I've done like hundreds of these kind of things. And I could still remember in the midst of all that, all I could think of is I want to go home and I want to go to my church Bible study group. I don't want no free products. I don't want any celebrity anymore. I've had enough of all of them. And this was just my second year of my work. I'm already sick of it. So you thought losing an assignment, right? You know, you think, so I've come to this point that I'm very sick of stuff anymore. I don't want to continue doing the same thing. And then, but that's not the worst, you see. So first of all, I want to say, you know, sometimes when you lose assignment file, you know, you just, in the end, you accidentally delete it and it's gone, right? It's very painful, right? But that's not the most painful thing. The most painful thing is that after you've gone through all these campaigns, pitch all these things, right? Then you finally see the worth of your work going down the drain. This year, I could finally see the true worth of my effort and time that I spent on these brands. Remember the first flagship store that I proudly launched for my client? It's closed down now. I remember walking past that store and thought to myself, I sacrificed so many nights of sleep, 1 year worth of sweat and tears, and everything just ends with nothing. And not just that, there's this commercial video that I produced. I flew to different states. I had sleepless nights planning for it. And I finally got the chance to watch that very final video in a retail store this year. As I was happily watching that video in the store, then I look around and I realized the shop was not doing well. There were only very few customers around and they didn't even notice the video. It was played at the corner of the store on a loop. Did I just waste my life rushing out such video so that that video can be played at the corner of the store and nobody will ever notice it? My effort goes to the corner of the store. Okay, that's not the worst thing, okay? The last thing was that I worked really hard to retain a globally recognized UK brand, and I managed to do that. I retained that brand. I get to have like, you know, a year worth of rebranding with them and all that. I was super happy, get to earn a lot of money. I was so happy, but that brand went bankrupt. It's all gone. I thought I could look back at all of the beautiful posts and the beautiful ads that I did last time, but it's all gone, it's all deleted. It's now taken over by another company. I'm seriously not exaggerating here, guys, but when you see that there is an end to all the things that you do and you will end up with zero gain, sometimes you wonder if it's worth starting in the first place. Why do workers do that even when they see that the work is really tough and is getting nowhere? It might actually, you know, give them no gain. I don't know, but we just keep working, you know. We just keep working. We just keep working knowing that we can't gain much from that. And how do we cope with that? Now there are a few things that we run to or we will seek for in order to cope. In order to have a coping mechanism in this very tough, cynical world out there. And the first alternative that we will look for a release to just escape from work, from this really sick world, is we will adopt a hobby. And most of the time, I tell you, most workers out there will sign up for ClassPass. Yep, it's very typical of a worker to find its escape in all the workout classes that we have. Very typical. Even I myself signed up for ClassPass. Can you imagine? I don't even work out. But you see, We go for these cycling classes, HIIT workout, yoga, Pilates, dance, and every time when I went, I felt slightly better about myself or about my day. But before I know it, I started getting addicted to that. I started prioritizing that over many other important things, and it's getting out of hand, and I stop and look for another alternative to find satisfaction, because work is just really stressful. You just need an escape. So what's the next best thing to run to? Now, workers will run to traveling. That's very common. You will find yourself randomly browsing through flight booking sites, hoping that one day you could find a super cheap flight and go on a spontaneous trip to a getaway place. And now I remember myself doing that because I was so sick with work. I remember booking a back-to-back trip to 3 different countries in the span of 2 weeks. It was Bali, Australia, and then Singapore. I flew 6 times in 2 weeks. And the worst of it all, you thought it was very fun, right? I regret it. The worst of it all is that after I've been to that country before, like for example, I've been to Australia before, I wish to come back to Australia to top the previous experience that I had there. But sadly, I don't get the same feeling anymore. I don't get to recapture the similar memories I had with Australia. It's just gone, no matter how much I've tried. The streets, the coffee, the people, the things just look the same to me now. Just look normal. So the trips were definitely fun, but I came back being very sick, I remember. And on the last flight back, I look out the window and I remember being even more miserable than before. I just did not want to come back to the rat race. I did not want to come back to work. I just want to be in a fantasy. Then 2 weeks later, after I came back, I quit my job. I know, silly me, but I did that because I couldn't cope with work. So getaways, after work parties, all expense paid trips. Yes, at that moment, while I'm in it, very fun, enjoyable. But when I came back feeling even more empty than before. Now, Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verse 7. I want to say this, guys. All the toil of man, all the work of man is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. We work to satisfy our desires, but our desire is never filled. It's never. I had a colleague who also saved 30,000 of, she saved up 30,000 in the span of 2 to 3 years of work. She spent all that in a US trip, came back broke, quit her job to look for a better job that pays better. And she just continues doing that. And she's fine with it because as long as she gets to travel, it's good. So workers, right? They are a sad bunch of people. Very sad. Because they know that they can't be satisfied. So in the end, they just look for traveling, look for class pass classes. And if they can't find satisfaction in those things, then the least of it all, they can look forward to the very little things in life to enjoy. Now, this is very typical of all the working adults out there. Whenever I hang out with working adults, the top topics that they will talk about is, hey, have you tried, right, the new Taiwanese drink in Family Mart? Hey, you know there's a cafe nearby here that I heard very cheap one and stuff. Hey, Jom, let's go. Hey, you know there's a flea market here. Oh, there's a new art box place here. Can we go and check out? Jom, let's go, man. Oh, do you know McDonald's has this like new burger or this kind of ice cream that they just launched? Have you tried it? No, yet. Jom, let's go. So they just keep riding on the new trends, the bandwagon, and proudly came back and gave their reviews. This ice cream, not very nice. So that's the only thing they look forward to in work, you know. It's so sad, it's so depressing to the point where the only thing they look forward to is the new Taiwanese drink, the new burger in McDonald's. Non-stop chasing for the next new thing to satisfy them, and it just keeps going on. So our work life becomes so dull to the point that the most exciting thing that we always look forward to in everyday life, it's what's for lunch. we look forward to that very much. And some of the workers out there, I think you guys are laughing right now, right? Yeah. I see some of your faces now. Wow, you guys are so excited about lunch, man. How the world is so sad, man, but we were so excited for lunch, and it makes us no different from animals, you know, but we don't care. Since the morning when we start our job, right, we will already start planning for lunch. Hey, where to go, where to eat, where's the new location, check for reviews, check for menu, check for location, who to chill, who not to chill. And then the moment the clock strikes 12, boom, gone, so happily just goes out like that. Just because all of us know you have only one lunch for the day. You better make it count, okay? And it's only 1 hour. Better make it count. So yeah, lunchtime is our most joyous moment in our workplace. Yep. And if, let's say, workout, traveling, lunch, new trends did not work on us, then we'll slowly turn our dissatisfaction to the company. We thought, maybe there's always a better opportunity out there. For me, I always thought there's always a better offer out there. I always thought that there's a better company out there that I've yet to discover. And they must have more interesting type of work for me, unlike my current company now. Useless, you know. I can't help think that I'm wasting my life here while all my friends are reaping good opportunities out there. No, man. But like I want to put it to you, it's not true that you have a better offer out there or you have a better company out there. Just like social media, guys, the grass is always greener on the other side. But when you weigh out everything that you want in a company and what a company can offer you, it will never match. So that don't bother looking for the ideal job, because there isn't. That's why people start their own company and they failed 6 months after. Yeah, because they just can't bear with the fact that there is no ideal job out there. I myself want a lot of things, but there is no such offer. The ideal job that I wanted is no OT, enough leave, reasonable pay, a good boss, a company that has a good long-term prospect. I want to learn and grow. There's no bullying. Everyone is friendly. There's work-life balance. I still want to go to church. I still want to attend my Bible study. I still want to make time for my church work. I still want to read the Bible with people. Not a lot of things to demand, right? And the naive me still felt like there's a job out there who could provide me such opportunities. No, there is no such thing. There isn't. You can't get that job. That job is called working in church, perhaps. Okay, so so that's the whole, you know, satisfaction side of things. Now I want to move on to talk about freedom and flexibility. I know a lot of you want that in your work. You guys constantly look for the work out there who can give you a lot of freedom and flexibility. And some of you may be thinking, oh, work is finally the time that I get to be free. I get to be free for my assignments, for my exams. I get to move on to the best stage of my life because I don't need to worry about all these, you know, marks and deadlines anymore. Wait, don't get too excited. Because you may think that you get the very freedom or flexibility you wanted in work, but no. It's worse. It's worse than uni days. Now, here's why. First thing, every move that you make in work is monitored by your colleagues or your bosses. Some companies are strict about using your phone. Your laptop is encrypted to restrict your browsing freedom. And when my boss realizes that I've been away longer than expected because I was in a client's meeting, so even leaves itself also, don't get too excited because you don't have a lot of it. Now, let me talk a little bit about bully. I'm not going to dwell too much on that because I think it's very normal. Okay, bully does not happen only on the level of fresh grad. I always thought maybe, you know, you're a newbie that you get bullied very much because you don't know stuff, but it's not true. People get bullied at all levels, the manager level, the vice president level, the C-suite, everyone just becomes a bigger bully over another person. People want to get ahead of the game, so it's all about just who has the bigger say. So don't be surprised when, you know, people just want to bully you and want to step over your shoulders and all that, because it just keeps happening. Just that maybe for the bosses it's just more indirect. but it's happening as you climb up the ranks. So you have to be ready to stand up for yourself, go through that, and face up to the reality of all the bullies at work. Okay. Do you have long-lasting relationship? Some of you may love all the friendship that you have created at work. Sometimes you might find one or two friends that will last forever. But let me tell you, most of the relationships out there, they're all built on vain stuff. Okay. The topics they talk about: new trend, food, gossip about this employee, this client, this boss. That's the only thing they will talk about, actually. So there's no deep, meaningful relationship that you get at work. Colleagues just cancel on each other and it's fine, nothing personal. When we get stressed, we just turn to social media. We don't turn to each other and get comfort from each other. So you do feel very lonely as a result of that. No one's going to be there. And after, when you leave that company, it takes maybe around a year to forget about them. Yeah. Maybe some of them might last longer than usual, but most of them you just forget and you just move on with lives. Okay, so that's the relationship that you get at work. Evangelism. Now, evangelism means we want to reach out to people with the gospel message. Now, is the workplace a good place for evangelism? It can be, but it's very tough. If you don't do evangelism today with zero obstacles, with zero concerns, there's no way you could evangelize persistently long-term at work. Because evangelism opportunities at work don't come unless you create them. You have to create that opportunity. You can't just wait until someone just asks you about God. No, we don't even have the same lunch hour. People don't eat lunch. Okay? Even if we do eat lunch, it's break time. Everyone wants to dodge everyday conversation because everyone's tired. And if you bring the conversation you made it to become very awkward, then you have to say goodbye to all your lunch buddies for the rest of the month. Okay, nobody want to have lunch with you anymore when you ask them really hard questions about life. After work, you think maybe you can chill them for a drink and then talk about the gospel, right? Now, everyone wants to go home, party hard. Nobody wants to catch up with you because you're not as important as their dogs or their family or their girlfriend and boyfriend after work. So please, they're not gonna make time for you. So it's very tough to evangelize at work. You have to almost be out there making plans all the time and keep failing to make it work. Okay, last but this is the climax of my talk: opportunity cost. Now, whatever I express in probably the past 40 minutes or an hour, that's not it. There's a whole lot of opportunity cost that I have to weigh it against that, to see how much that I've lost from just working like a normal worker. Now, the biggest thing I've lost while I was busy with work life and while I was doing campaigns here and there, while I was doing rebranding and all that, traveling and all that, the biggest thing that I've lost was the passion for God's word. The craziest year was back in 2016 and 2017. And I could remember that my church was covering the book of Hebrews. I could not remember a single thing that I've learned. The whole year of sermons and Bible study just did not stick. And I could just vaguely remember stuff like, oh, don't drift away, enter the rest. God, please keep us faithful. Done. That's the theme of the year. Everybody just keep repeating that. Every working adult somewhat has the same sense of it. Because all of us are just tired bunch of people. We just can't remember anything. I recently got the chance to read the book of Hebrews again. It felt like it was my first time reading it. I just couldn't remember anything that I've read. And also for church meetings, for all the meetings, it was very exhausting. I remember there was this day as well that I was beating the jam, trying to attend the Good Friday celebration. Good Friday was the day that was the best evangelistic event for me to invite all my friends to hear about the gospel, but not anymore. When I started working, I myself struggled to be there. I always get stuck in crazy jams because it's on Friday. Took the wrong turn. I remember taking the wrong turn. Then I arrived super late until I could only listen the very last few sentences of the sermon. all I wanted that day was to listen to that sweet gospel message that I longed to hear the whole week. And I missed it. And I remember working twice the time faster than my colleagues so that I can reach my church in time. I'm always late. And when I arrived, ready to take in stuff, ready to learn stuff, my brain automatically shuts down because it's just very tiring. And this just keeps happening. And after rounds of missing out on the word, eventually I stopped learning about God. Perhaps time to time there are sparks of genuine understanding or repentance, but that's becoming rare as you work. I used to crave the word that I can never have fully until one day I stopped craving. I lost the strength to swim against the current, and just like almost every working adult, I just go with the flow and just survive to exist, survive, and barely is a Christian, barely living up like a Christian. I can't evangelize well. I forget how to follow up on people. I forget thinking God's thoughts were so strange to me. Articulating my faith to my friends it gets even more bizarre. I honestly did not feel like a Christian. That's my opportunity cost. The cost was 4 years of Christian growth, 4 years of the living word of God that I missed on. I gave up the word in exchange for the world, in exchange for all the worldly pursuit. And I keep thinking to myself, if only I could take back those months and years that I spent on building those brands, that I spent on launching those stores, and use them on growing in God's word, I would become a different person today. I would seriously be a whole lot different today. So that was one of the major reasons why I am working full-time now in work, as in church. I am doing full-time paid ministry now because I've had enough of the world. I've had enough of myself. So Ecclesiastes 3 verse 14, I perceive, I hope the verse appears there. Okay, it says here, verse 14, I perceive that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. God has done it so that people fear before him. Whatever God does, that will endure forever. No one can change God's plan. So no matter how frustrating God's working world is, people must learn to put up with it. But not just that. God made your life, your working life, miserable and sad with just one purpose. And that is so that you can look up to him. So that he can strike fear in your hearts and start getting you to think about life. Now, I want to end on this note. 4 years, it took me 4 years to realize or to accept the fact that this is from God, or this is what's happening to me. But every year, though I know that I was in a rat race, I continue doing it. And you should ask yourself why. I should ask myself, why do I just keep doing it? You should ask workers out there, why do they still keep on working, knowing that they are stuck, knowing that everything is not gonna end up good most of the time. I honestly wanted a break from that routine. Honestly, I just want to give up already. Because I don't like the idea of being stuck. A lot of people will say, hey, throw your resignation letter and maybe just ask yourself what you actually want to do after that. No, I refuse to take quality breaks. I refuse to even make meaningful reflection while I was working, because I secretly couldn't bear with all the what ifs in my mind, which will make me more demotivated at work. I know a good reflection, the more you think about it, the more it will lead you to wanting something permanent in life, and that is to want God. But I have to admit that I can never have that sense of permanence at work. I can admit that eventually I will have to go back to the word. So my whole life was in vanity, I'll say. My whole life was just full of crazy effort, and it's all flashed right in front of my face, and the harsh reality will sadden me even more. So those thoughts will start leading me back to thinking about quitting job, worrying about what to do next and what people will perceive me, what's my long-term is. So I refuse to reflect. I refuse to have deep thoughts about the meaning of my work, how futile it is. Every single year, I refuse that thought in my brain because I know it will be very sad. So in the end, I choose to work in ignorance, which is, I think, most of what workers would do. We choose to work in ignorance. So at least we can enjoy. We can enjoy a bit. We can celebrate some little gains at work, but we know it won't go anywhere. So no matter how hard we work, try to see the good at work, we know there will be a loss to it. So when we put our hands into that plow, it's very hard to quit and just get it done with it. So seasoned workers, I would say, the ones with us right now, they eventually get used to this unending cycle of vanity. Hence, they master the art of accepting the harsh reality of being in the rat hole, and then they create a workaround. They seize the most without losing out. They have their fair shares of benefits, and that's enough. That's the way how they survive. They don't think much. They don't reflect much. They don't do anything much, just to be on top, just to survive above water. So it's tough to not be cynical about the working world because it is very, very sad. It's tough to not try to preserve yourself because you die every day. So only wise workers would hold themselves from thinking this way because they see the reality of life. But let me tell you, majority of the workers, they're still dreaming. They still refuse to see the ugly truth about their work, that they are no different from a hamster running in its wheel. Chapter 3, verse 9 to 11. This is my last passage for you. What gain has the worker from his toil, from his work? I've seen the business that God has given to the children of men to be busy with. He has made everything beautiful in his time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. God is the one who keeps you active and busy with life. Everything works according to his plan, according to his timing, yet God kept you from knowing what is going on in his creation. God is like baiting us as humans, giving us a desire for something that is well beyond our reach. So looking at this tough world, you will never get things that you actually want because God made it that way. God made it that way. So I hope that at the end of this whole thing, it gets you to look up and see who is the one truly behind the futility of life or the tough world that you're about to enter. And if I were you, fear him. Fear God above everything else. Let me pray. Dear Lord, we praise you for your name. We praise you for the lives that you have created in us. We truly don't deserve it. We praise you also for the workplaces that we're about to enter or we're currently in. We thank you that you do not give us the sense of permanence in this life, in the work that we have right now, because we're meant to look to you. We're meant to fear you above everything else. We're meant to find life in you. And Lord, if we are in need of this message, please help us to take heart in what we have learned today and be disturbed by this message and think about what the real meaning of life is and not go on in ignorance, because ignorance will only make us even more stuck in this world. But get us to be wise about this life. Get us to see that there is no end to our toil except to accept the fact that you are in charge of all of our lives. Lord, I pray for the rest of the day. I pray that all of us will stay back for the next talk so that they will see you for who you are. They will see how sovereign you are, how much you're in charge of every one of our lives here today. And I pray that at the end of this event, people will see their work as part and parcel of your gift to man, so that we can work for you in this eternal life that you've given us. So in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.